the ways that the government is defrauded is that the computer systems don't talk to each other. So if the computer systems don't talk to each other, then you can exploit that gap, and fraudsters exploit that gap to take advantage. For example, there were over $300 million of Small Business Administration loans that has been given out to people under the age of 11.
Well, actually, to add to it, it's $300 million under the age of 11 and over $300 million to over the age of 120.
Definitely.
Small business loans.
Correct.
Yes. The oldest American is 114. So it's safe to say if their age is 115 or above, they're fake. Or they should be in the Guinness Book of World Records. And we should not be giving out loans to babies. So the youngest recipient of a Small Business Administration loan is a 9-month-old, which is a very, very precocious baby we're talking about here. So obviously it was just fraudulent. And they do terrible things. They actually will see that a kid's been born. They will steal that kid's social security number and then take out a loan and leave that kid with a bad credit rating. There was literally a baby. The terrible things are being done is what we're saying. And we're stopping these terrible things.
And you can stop it? I mean,
well, we are stopping it.
The reason this is happening is because the two systems are not talking to each other.
Yes.
Right? And so you don't know at the Small Business Administration that you're giving a loan to a 9-month-old, which happened in one case, because you're not cross-referencing that with the Social Security Administration data that has birth dates. So that very, very simple fix eliminates tremendous fraud. And that there are multiple systems across the government where the systems are not speaking with one another. And if you just solve that simple problem, you would solve a huge amount of fraud.
Are you surprised?
So one of the ways that, like one of the key tricks that the fraudsters pull is that they will use the fact that someone is marked as live, and as sort of just that social security number is marked as live in Social Security, and then get disability and unemployment insurance for a dead person. Because the databases don't talk to each other, all they got was from Social Security is like, is this person alive? Yes, they're not alive. It's falsely marked. Person is falsely marked as alive in Social Security. But they didn't. But that person, a fraudster can now get unemployment and disability from a dead person. This is happening all the time at scale.
Are you surprised at some of the legal efforts and some of the judges that have weighed in? There's about 8 or 10 now of these cases that are at least temporary holds. They're being challenged by the DOJ.
Right.
Are you surprised by that pushback?
Well, it's the D.C. Circuit is notorious for having a very far-left bias. And when you look at the people close to some of these judges, where are they working? Oh, they're working at these NGOs. Oh, they're the ones getting this money. Does that seem like a system that lacks corruption? It sounds like corruption to me.
Last thing, do you guys all see this as a patriotic duty? I mean, is that really what this is about?
It's essential.
Very much
I do, 100%. I was running 5 businesses in Houston, and I left that. I left great people to do this, and my wonderful wife said, go for it, and here I am. But I feel like this is me giving back to the country.
If we don't do this, we're sunk. The ship, unless this exercise is successful, the ship of America will sink. That's why we're doing it.
Well, gentlemen, I really appreciate the time. Hassan, Interior Department, you're a former oil company CEO. You're reviewing contracts before they're approved for funding. What are you finding?
Well, Elon and Steve kind of stole my thunder a little bit, but I actually found that customer service survey contract. I actually have an example of one right here. I could have done this in high school. And
Is that right?
I found it.
Is that bad?
I found it on the weekends because under the Biden administration, there was no departmental oversight within the Department of Interior whatsoever. None. We are now reviewing every single contract, every single grant, and when things come to my attention that don't make sense, I'm bringing them to Secretary Burgum, and he's been fantastic. He's a businessman. He's very supportive of DOGE. It's been wonderful to work with him.
Is the battle between government of decades of buildup and business, which you guys are, is that like a train hitting each other? I mean, it seems like it's pretty disruptive.
Well, this is a revolution, and I think it might be the biggest revolution in government since the original revolution. But at the end of the day, America is going to be in much better shape. America will be solvent. the critical programs that people depend upon will work, and it's going to be a fantastic future. But are we going to get a lot of complaints along the way? Absolutely. You know, one of the things I learned at PayPal was you know who complains the loudest and with the most amount of fake righteous indignation? The fraudsters. It's a tell. There's some of these NGOs that are crazy, like the $2 billion to Stacey Abrams' NGO that basically didn't exist and suddenly gets $2 billion awarded from the federal government. She has, why? And there are many such cases like that.
I think that most people, common sense-wise, would say the fraud's got to end.
Yeah.
They're concerned about the 94-year-old mother who skips a check or somehow doesn't get what she's supposed to get.
Right. And what we're trying to say is actually that the 94-year-old grandmother is actually, as a result of DOGE's work, going to get her check. She's not going to be robbed by fraudsters like she's getting robbed today. And the solvency of the federal government will ensure that she continues to receive those Social Security checks, that Medicare continues to work, without which we're all doomed. The reason we're doing this is because if we don't do it, America's going to go insolvent. We're going to go bankrupt. And nobody's going to get anything.
Why are you guys all doing it? I mean, you can pipe up, but you don't have to be here, right? I mean, you don't have to be doing this.
I have blessed with 4 beautiful children, my wife and I. But we have a real fiscal crisis. And this is not sustainable. And what's worse, back to my children and everyone else's children, is we are burdening them with that debt. And it's only going to grow.
Steve, there's not a lot of hierarchy here. You guys are kind of all approaching it in different, silos, but with the same kind of goal, right? I mean, this is really Silicon Valley, private sector colliding with government.
Yeah, exactly. And we're headed in a bad path, but then the chance of success exists. And just the one that just is in my head right now, which is a fairly mundane one, but I think is very illustrative, is credit cards. There are in the federal government around 4.6 million credit cards for around 2.3 to 2.4 million employees. This doesn't make sense.
Right.
And so one of the things all of the teams have worked on is we've worked with the agencies and said, do you need all of these credit cards? Are they being used? Can you tell us physically where they are?
I hope they're getting frequent flyer miles.
Actually, on a different note, the rewards program the federal government has is actually not very good. That's a whole other...
It's a negotiation.
Sorry, yeah, exactly. But so far, the teams have worked together, and they've reduced it from 4.6 million to 4.3 million. So we're
taking it easy.
Yeah.
But clearly there should not be, more. There should not be more credit cards than there are people. Yeah.
Joe, middle-level employees, are they seeing a benefit to being empowered by taking out bureaucracy? I mean,
absolutely. I mean, I think what you're seeing is taking the best of Silicon Valley and the business world and bringing it into the government. We're bringing the best practices and the best methodologies, and people are inspired. Right, especially on the retirement process, which I can speak to. They've been trying to modernize and get off of paper since early 2000s, very unsuccessfully. Every attempt has gone over budget and been canceled because it hasn't been successful. And so, I showed up and I feel like I'm here because it's an interesting problem. We can use design to solve it and good engineering, and really create a better experience for everybody.
We're talking about elementary financial controls that are necessary for any company to function. So, like, if the federal government, if a commercial company operated the way the federal government does, then it would be immediately go bankrupt. It would be delisted. The officers would be arrested. And the changes we're putting in place will enable the federal government to pass an audit. It will enable taxpayers to know where the money is going and know that their hard-earned tax dollars are being spent well.
Elon Musk sitting down for an exclusive interview, a fascinating interview, alongside 7 members of the DOGE team, giving a peek behind the curtain of President Trump's cost-cutting department.
It was a riveting 50 minutes. The team consists of a wide range of experts, including a former rocket scientist and one of the co-founders of the rental site, a billionaire himself from Airbnb.
So the DOGE team also consists of engineers and all have the same goal, to slash wasteful government spending. Watch.
Our goal is to reduce the deficit by $1 trillion.
You technically are a special government employee, and you're supposed to be 130 days. Are you going to continue past that, or do you think that's what you're going to do? Or?
Well, I think we will have accomplished most of the work required to reduce the deficit by $1 trillion within that time frame. We actually want to be careful in the cuts, so we want to measure twice, if not thrice, and cut once. Actually, that is our approach. They may characterize it as shooting from the hip, but it is anything but that.
Some people say this shouldn't take a rocket scientist. Steve Davis, you are a rocket scientist.
Used to be. That all of us are willing to kind of put our lives on hold in order to do. I think the thing that's special right now is we actually believe there's a chance to succeed.
We really believe that the government can have an Apple Store-like experience, beautifully designed, great user experience, modern systems.
All of these people look so normal, but so brilliant at the same time. I mean, it just casually says, well, I used to be a rocket scientist. Yeah. And now we're getting free resources of some of the smartest individuals in our country. The leaders should be more grateful that we have access to this amount of resources. They've built great companies, have great success, not asking for a paycheck. They're just trying to cut the waste in the country right now.
This is what happens when you put a businessman in charge of the government. He's going to run it like a business. There is no business that would survive with the amount of debt we have and the inefficient systems that we're running. Social Security, a giant program with paper, and it takes so long for people to actually retire, and there's so much fraud in the system. So absolutely, really lucky to have these people coming in, and it just leaves you wondering, Brian, why wasn't this done before?
Yeah, communicate exactly what was going on.
Yeah.
They had an option, and Vivek Ramaswamy talked about it. He said, he was more putting together a report, giving it to Congress and telling him to do it.
Too slow.
And Elon said, no, we're going to cut it in real time. And it's caused controversy when you just say, hey, I just emailed out, we got to let go a whole bunch of people. That was before the secretaries got in place. Now that the secretaries are in control of their department, and now they're going to the Pentagon and Social Security, but they're not cutting benefits. And they're cutting out how many, for example, 120-year-olds are getting Social Security checks, and how many 9-month-olds are getting small business loans. There's no way for them to check what's going on. They also said there was no way of checking where any of the money was going. An invoice would come in, it would be paid, it would go out. They couldn't believe what they were witnessing, and that made them they gave them more of a sense that they got to fix this because it was he believed, so easy to fix. They have a computer system that handles billing that is 50 to 60 years old, that is so hard.
One bank account.
Yeah, even to update it, you couldn't train people on it. So they can come in there and modernize it in real time. And what they should do now, I think, is and you would know better, there are a roster of 24 Democrats that could just come in, look over the shoulder of what they're doing. I know you can get doge.gov.com. I know you can go there now. But so they could hear some of this without the cameras and tell me what the problem is.
What Congress used to do, you guys, is just there were a few good guys in there that saw the race and wanted, but they never did anything about it. All they did was print up these big books listing the stuff. And now all of a sudden, DOGE and the secretaries are all on board, and they have a president who's like, cut and slash this crap out of the budget. And so it's happening. And what it's done, Lawrence, is it has exposed not just inefficiencies and ancient systems and floppy disks and file cabinets in mines, but it's also uncovering a lot of corruption.
Well, the corruption is within the Democratic Party, all these different groups. And I remember when I used to be a part of the Obama team. I worked on the campaign. After the campaign, they immediately started finding ways for all these nonprofits to coordinate with the White House.
Yes.
And then all these groups were getting money from the government back and forth. So this has been an operation for a long time. How do you keep the ground soldiers in the game? But you got to pay them as well. And so we're seeing a connection with all these groups, our money, taxpayer money, not serving in the government, but serving as the political arm for all these different programs for the Democratic Party, and it's still in action. So when you see Democrats freaking out, it's because their bottom line has been impacted. Their foot soldiers aren't getting paid. They get a little mad about this.
And the money laundering has been exposed. That's what it was. It was money laundering with our money.
And so I always thought, why can't you complete an audit? And one of the reasons you can't complete an audit is if you know the money's going out, but you don't know where it's going.
Yeah.
So that's when people sit down there and go, I can't be a forensic accountant if you don't tell me why you're paying these bills or who it's going to. So when they get into the Pentagon, they're not looking necessarily to gut people. Maybe that is a story. They are too big. But they want to find out why they can't be audited once and for all, along with increasing spending because we have so many challenges.
I love that Elon Musk brought up Stacey Abrams because, and he stayed on this because it's a really great example that we can wrap our heads around. So she started an NGO named Power Forward Communities. You know, this nebulous name sounds, innocuous. Power Forward Communities. She had $100 in that account. Suddenly, it gets a $2 billion injection of our money. What is she doing with $2 billion? $2 billion.
With power, what does it do?
What? No one knows. No one knows.
Energy justice.
Energy justice. And it's actually what Lawrence just said. It's a way to pay off Democrat operatives.
She lost her race, and they needed something to keep the foot soldiers. They felt like she had a great ground game. Hire those same people. It's a wash, rinse, and repeat again.
Amen.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.